Hey guys, how's it going? I hope you're all doing great. Today I'm really keen to share with you a 2-month review on my favorite travel lens right now, the Fujifilm XF 23mm. I've been using this lens on the go for the last 2 months now, and I figured a review like this would be really valuable for someone who's looking at the lens or someone who's just entered the Fujifilm system. This isn't going to be much of a technical review. I'm sure you could find better photographers out there with much more knowledge on that. I'm just going to share with you my impressions and thoughts actually using it on the go as a travel photographer. Guys, before we jump into the video, it would be great if you could like, comment, and subscribe. And also I want to say a massive hello and thank you to all of you new viewers who have come along recently. So a little bit of background about this lens and why I picked it up is because right before I came on this trip, I bought the Fujifilm X-E4 and I needed a good travel lens to kind of match the size and form factor of this smaller camera. I was presented with a bunch of options, but I was drawn right to the 23mm because that focal length is my favorite, and the fact that this lens stops down to f2 made it a really easy call for me. The price is fair and it looks fantastic when attached to the X-E4. With the crop factor of the X-E4, this 23mm turns into an equivalent of around about a 35mm, and personally the 35mm focal length is my favorite. I think it looks the most natural and it gives you a really nice balance between landscapes and portraiture. For me and my style, this is really important because I love taking photos of people while I travel and also of the landscapes and things I see. So having the 23mm being that 35 equivalent is a really great balance for me, and I've never found myself wanting anything more. Based on the amount of gear videos I watch looking at different things I need to buy or would want to improve my photography, image quality is definitely one of the most important ones, so let's start off with that one. You might be thinking to yourself, is this lens going to give me great image quality, and whether or not you need to pay a little bit more to get the f1.4, but in my experience, and to be honest, the images coming out of this lens when paired with the X-E4 are absolutely incredible. I'm honestly so impressed with the quality that's coming out of this camera and the lens in particular, and when you compare it to another lens I've got, the 18-55, the 23mm really does have a lot more higher quality. So when you combine the fact that this lens is reasonably priced and it does deliver some incredible images, it makes you think as a photographer that this really could be a good option for you. All of the shots you're seeing right now were shot with the 23mm on the Fujifilm X-E4, and in my opinion, these images look incredible. You can be the judge yourself, but in terms of image quality and sharpness, I'm really impressed with how this lens is performing. In terms of sharpness, when shooting from f4 to maybe f7, you are going to get some incredibly sharp images, particularly landscape stuff. So if you do want to bring the stops higher and get a lot more in focus, you can expect to see some really sharp images. The same can be said for f2 and f2.8 when you bring it down and open the aperture up, but you can notice a little bit of softness around the edges, but that can be expected when you drop it down that low. Personally, shooting portraits with this lens has been incredible, and I've definitely noticed the sharpness, even at f2, to be really impressive. Building off image quality, if we talk about colors as well, Fujifilm are known for their colors, and that's why I know a lot of you, including myself, entered into the system. And to be honest, the 23mm doesn't disappoint. All of the images that come out of camera right away before I've edited look incredible, and even when I show my friends the photos on the back of the camera when we're out actually shooting, they're all incredibly stoked. One thing that you should note is that I have noticed a bit of fringing with this lens. It's something that I've been finding in particular lighting and something that's not always apparent, but it is an easy fix in Lightroom, but I thought it'd be really good to let you know. In terms of build quality and ergonomics, this lens is really well made, and when you hold it in your hand, it feels like a premium product. Although it's the cheaper version of Fujifilm's 23mm options, it feels really great to hold and fits really nicely on a camera like the X-E4. When I hold it up to the camera, you can see that this is quite small and fits really nice in your hand, which is really great considering this is more of a street photographer, travel photographer lens. And even though it is quite small, it doesn't feel flimsy at all and feels really nice to hold when attached to the camera. This lens is weather resistant, and I have pushed it through a few questionable times in some salty water and in the rain, but overall I've been really impressed with how it's held up. And even though I've pushed it through a lot over these 2 months, it doesn't really have too many dings and it still looks really nice. Now lastly, in terms of build quality and ergonomics, I do want to mention that this combination of the 23mm and the X-E4 looks really incredible. I've said it in a few past videos and you you might be a bit confused, but when your camera looks really good, I feel you're more inclined to bring it out with you, and you're more inclined to strike up conversations with strangers or people who are interested in your camera. For me, this is a really great conversation starter when it comes to taking portraits of people who I meet on the street. They're always really impressed with the style and the look of the camera, and so when you talk about the 23mm attached to the Xe4, it's a really great combination. You might think that this doesn't matter, and that's totally cool, but personally I do find that as long as your camera looks good and feels good and is enjoyable to use, you're going to be more inclined to bring it out with you and ultimately get a lot more photos. Most of you looking at this lens or even watching my video are probably into some sort of street or travel photography. And so if you're a run and gun style photographer and like capturing candid moments, autofocus is going to be really important to you. Personally, I only shoot in autofocus, and that can be a bit confusing to some people, but if you've got it, why not use it? And the 23mm when performing with the Xe4 really doesn't miss many shots. The only time that I've missed shots is when I screw up and not the lens, and so using the autofocus system paired with this lens, I'm always going to get those shots that I'm after. If you are someone who enjoys manual focusing, you're not going to be disappointed with the feel of this lens. I've tried it out a few times when testing this lens out, and I've really enjoyed the feel, so that's something to take into consideration. Now, in terms of the video performance with this lens, I haven't used the 23mm f2 for much video at all. The main reason for this is the fact that the lens doesn't have any in-body image stabilization. When a lens is stabilized, you're going to get footage that is a lot less shaky, and given that I have the Xe4, which doesn't have IBIS as well, combining the two really isn't a great combination for video. Personally, I use the 18 to 55mm lens for my video shots with the Xe4 because that lens is stabilized and it kind of compensates the fact that the Xe4 doesn't have any IBIS. If you are someone who is looking to shoot a lot of video with this lens, I would definitely recommend pairing this lens with a Fujifilm system that has in-body image stabilization in the camera itself. Trying to shoot video with the 23mm and the Xe4, which both don't have stabilization, your footage is going to look really unusable, and I've tried it a few times here and there and the shots definitely didn't pan out for me. So this is definitely a really big thing to consider if you are looking to do a lot more video. I would recommend looking at the 18 to 55mm, which is what I did. It's a really great option, simple alternative, and really reasonably priced. I'm going to do a full review on that lens as well, similar to this one in a few weeks, because that lens has really outperformed as well when paired with the Xe4. Overall, guys, I hope that this review and breakdown of me using this lens in the real world has helped you get a better idea of what kind of lens this is. When I was looking at buying this lens, I had a really tough time finding reviews that explain the use in the real world and not just a technical kind of breakdown. And so from my experience, I can happily say that this small compact lens performs incredibly well. It gives you incredible images, and it is definitely reasonably priced. It's a really good option for someone entering into the Fujifilm system, and given that it is a 23mm lens, roughly equating to that 35mm I spoke about, you're going to have a really great time enjoying landscapes and portraiture. It's what I'd call the perfect everyday lens, so if you are someone who just wants a small light system to take with you on trips and days out, the 23mm paired with any of the Fujifilm cameras is a great option. But guys, thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. I'm actually still on the go right now, but I've been shooting every day, I promise. I've got a lot of videos in the pipeline that I do need to get through on editing, but thank you for standing by, and thank you for all of you joining along recently. It's been great seeing you all, and if you do have any questions, be sure to leave a comment. I'll try my best to get through to them all, but otherwise, guys, if you could like this video, comment, and I'll see you in the next video.